It is episode 31, SteigerWorld, Pittsburgh Podcast Network. I'm back. Been off for a few weeks. I was exposed to some gluten apparently and came down with a serious illness. But this is gluten-free, as all of our podcasts, gluten-free and recyclable. And glad that you downloaded us here. I should tell you that as I'm doing this, it's Wednesday morning, around 11 o'clock. So as I sit here today speaking to you, the Pirates are getting ready to play a day-night doubleheader with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, it's funny because every Wednesday since, I don't know, it's probably at least a couple of months, we talk about, we usually lead off with the Pirates because it is baseball season, and I would talk about how many games out the Pirates are, and they always seem like on Wednesday they'd be 5 or 6 games out. Well, they're 4 games out on this Wednesday as I sit here, and of course, they could be anywhere from 2 to 6 games out, depending on what happens today. And it's interesting, too, they're playing a day-night doubleheader. I remember, once again, I'm old, but I remember when they actually would play a twilight doubleheader. As a matter of fact, one of the best experiences I had, not only as a Pirates fan growing up, but as a member of the media, was 1978. The Pirates were in a similar situation with the Philadelphia Phillies, only there was no wild card to be falling back on. They had a chance to win the division. I think they were 3 games out with 4 games to go against the Phillies. And it was going to be a twilight doubleheader Friday, single game Saturday, single game Sunday. And so they had to win them all to beat the Phillies and win the division. And of course, if you didn't win the division, you didn't go anywhere. It was first place or no place. So they won the twilight doubleheader. They had about 45,000 people at Three Rivers Stadium, which was a huge crowd in those days. Willie Stargell hit a big home run. And so there they were. They were right in it. They needed to beat the Phillies on Saturday and Sunday. They played on Saturday, and a pitcher named Randy Lurch, if I'm not mistaken, hit 2 home runs to beat them on Saturday and knock them out of the pennant race, which gets me to another issue that I want to talk about with the Pirates, because there's going to be a lot of talk, and of course now they're going to face, unless they win the rest of their games and the Cardinals lose 5, they're going to play the Cubs, and probably at PNC Park, and they're going to get a look at Jake Arrieta, who's had the best half season in the history of baseball. Nobody think of how many pitchers have pitched after the All-Star game. When was the first All-Star game? In the 1930s. So for like 75, 80 years, nobody has pitched better after the All-Star game. No starting pitcher has pitched better than Jake Arrieta has pitched for the Cubs. He's got a 3-1 record and an 0.75 ERA against the Pirates. So what I'm getting to here is that there's an issue here with the Pirates and what a tough break it is for them. They have one of the best teams in baseball. There's no question about that. They may even have the best team in the National League right now. Just they are behind the Cardinals, and they haven't been able to catch them. But this is the way it works. I'm old enough to remember the last 3, and remember them well. The last 3 Pirates World Series winners. Now the Pirates in 1960 had to fight through the entire National League season. 8 teams in the league. There's no wild card. You got to win the National League. That's it. There were no divisions, and so they win the league for the first time in 33 years. They win a pennant to go to the World Series, and who do they face? The New York Yankees with Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, a team that they had absolutely no chance to beat. None. No chance to beat them. And, of course, they beat them. And that's what made it a great story, and that's what made it so much fun. 1971. Even to go back to in the late 60s, they had a team in 1966 that won, I think it was 92 games, 94 games, something like that. They finished 3 games out of first place behind the Dodgers and the Giants. The Pirates had 3 Hall of Famers on that team: Stargell, Clemente, and Mazeroski. But, the Dodgers had Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. The Giants had Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Juan Marichal. That's who the Pirates ran into. Sorry. They had a really good team. There was somebody better. That's the way it is. 1970, they win a division championship, the first year of divisions, and they run into the Reds team that won 102 games. That's who they had to play in the playoffs, and they lost. So in 71, they get through the playoffs, and they play against the Baltimore Orioles. They had 4 20-game winners. They had no chance to win. None. 0 chance to win in that series, and they won. They were down 3-1, and they won. 1979, same thing. They win their division. They win the playoff against the against the Reds, I guess it was. Yeah. Anyway, they win the playoff series. They go to the World Series, and they got to look at the Baltimore Orioles again. Another good team that nobody gave them a chance to win. They fall behind in that series. I went to Baltimore for Game 6. I was working for Channel 4, and we were working with our sister station down there, WBAL in Baltimore, the Hearst station down there. And the Pirates had just won Game 5. Jim Rooker pitched a great game. Pirates had just won, and that got them to win 3-2. They had been down 3-1. No chance to win. They win Game 5. When I walked in the newsroom, not the newsroom, the station, the TV station at WBAL, every single person in the station was wearing a T-shirt and a hat that said, Baltimore Orioles 1979 World Series champions. Now, they were up 3-2, and the next 2 games were going to be in Baltimore. Well, Pirates won. So, my whole point here, and if you want to go all the way back to the this is a World Series I don't remember. 1927, the Pirates won the pennant. They had to play the 1927 Yankees in the World Series. I mean, that's the night everybody, 12-year-old kids know that the 1927 Yankees were unbeatable. That's who the Pirates got in 1927 when they won their pennant. The last one they won until 1960. So it's nothing new for a team to be in a situation where they might get a bad break by having won a division or won a league and then having to face a really tough team in the playoffs. So if the Pirates have to face Jake Arrieta, they just got to beat him. Got to beat them. That's the way it is. If you're a World Championship team, you'll beat them. I don't know. I wouldn't bet a nickel that they're going to beat them based on the record, but I also wouldn't be 1,000% shocked if they figured out a way to beat them. The one thing they have going for them is the hidden vigorish. Arrieta, if the longer he goes with ridiculous levels of success, the more likely it is that he's going to have a bump. Nobody goes forever, and maybe this will be the time. But I think the Pirates are going to be playing against him next week. And there are people who are saying that the Pirates might have the best team in the National League right now. If that's the case, all you got to do is beat the best pitcher, and then you go to the World Series. You move into the playoffs, and who knows what happens after that. So the Pirates have had a great year, no matter what happens. And as all those seasons that I described, other than the 1927 season that I lived through, the fun was the ride leading up to the championship. The World Series games themselves. The getting behind 3-1 and coming back to win, it's fun. You got to enjoy the ride, and whatever happens, just remember where you were 4 years ago when the Pirates were losing 95, 100 games, and the season was over, and 1st of May was over. So, and one last thing about the Pirates, I think I said it here at the time. Not that it was any brilliant observation, but the Pirates started out the season 3-6. They had a very bad first couple of weeks of the season, and I said at the time, you're coming off a year where you missed the division championship by 1 game. So going 3-6 in the first 9 games, that could kill you. And if they go 6-3 in those games, they're in first place right now. Or they're a game out if you do the math, but they're very much in it. And so remember that next year if they start out in April, every game, when you've got wild card situations, and now when you're in division with the teams like the Cardinals and the Cubs, you better realize that every game is important. You got to win every game, because the Cubs are going to be really good next year, and the Cardinals ain't going to be any worse. Then you got your Steelers. I think there was an injury on Sunday that was fairly important to Ben Roethlisberger, and that was inevitable too. Speaking of hidden vigorish, he had gone 2 years without having to miss a snap because of injury, and the way he plays and just the nature of the game, that couldn't last forever. He was going to have to be out. And so I remember when they signed Mike Vick after Bruce Gradkowski got hurt, I said at the time that I think that makes the Steelers a better team, that they're a better team with Mike Vick as a backup than they are with Bruce Gradkowski, or obviously with Landry Jones. I could be 1,000% wrong on that. He didn't look all that good the other night Sunday when he had to come in, but he is Mike Vick, and it shouldn't be that hard for a guy with Vick's experience to run the Steelers' offense. Ben Roethlisberger completed 75% of his passes up until he got hurt. I mean, that's ridiculous. 75%. And if you went back and looked at the 2 3/4 games that he played, I bet he wasn't asked to make a difficult throw 10 times. Now, maybe the passes look easy because he's doing the right thing and making quick decisions and making the right reads and throwing to the guy who he knows is going to be open at the time. That's all part of being the first-team quarterback. But it's not like these guys in the NFL now are asked to make difficult throws. And the offense that the Steelers run is just not that hard. I'm sorry. You flip it out to Le'Veon Bell, let him run with it. You wait for Antonio Brown to get open, and you throw it to him and let him run after the catch. It's not that hard. So Mike Vick is in a position where all he's got to do is not screw up. And I think being in that position of just not screwing up is a pretty good position to be in with this offense. I don't know if he's ever played on a team that's had as much talent as this offense does. So I think Vick's going to be either very good or very bad. I don't think it's going to be anywhere in the middle. And if he's very good, either way, it'll be spectacular. It'll be a spectacular success or a spectacular failure. Because you know how bad he can look when he looks bad, but you know how good he can look when he looks good. I mean, if he's out there running around and making the throws and also breaking a few big runs, he's awfully tough to play against. So we'll find out. One thing I will point out, that Mike Vick and Ben Roethlisberger were on the same field once last year, playing against each other, and the team that Mike Vick was playing for won the game. So I'll give you an idea. It is possible for him to play in a game and win, because he did it against the Steelers. And the Baltimore Ravens are going to be really pissed off when they get here. They're 0-3. It's not going to be an easy game, but I wouldn't bet a nickel on the game, because I don't think anybody knows how to make an intelligent prediction on what's going to happen. But I'll just leave it at this. I think it's either going to be very good for Mike Vick or really bad. And of course, if that means it'll be either really good or very bad for the Steelers. Now the Penguins, they are playing tonight after they played a game in Johnstown Tuesday night. As again, this is Wednesday as I'm speaking to you here, and I don't know. You can't get anything out of exhibition games from wins and losses. I do know this: Crosby and Kessel are going to be fun to watch this year. I'm all aboard on that one. I'm happily looking forward to Tuesday night in February, watching those guys entertain me. Whether it means a Stanley Cup or a better position in the playoffs or whatever, I don't know, but it's going to be fun to watch. And the second line, Malkin, Hornqvist, and Sergei Politnikov, I like that line. Politnikov is a guy who looks he's kind of feisty. He's got that like a Russian mean streak in him, and he's got some skill. And I think he might be a good combination there with Hornqvist, who's a crazy man, will be in front of the net there all night long. So I think their first two lines are pretty good. The third line's shaken out. You got Dupuis, you got Bo Bennett, you got all kinds of things going on there, and don't know who's going to be playing where. And Perron, is he going to be on the first line with Crosby, or is it going to be Kunitz? Kunitz has looked good there. I think the Penguins have an interesting problem there with figuring out their lines. They got a lot of talent to spread around. And one of the things about hockey that people sometimes, I think, forget, media fans, they look at training camp and they say, this guy, Pouliot's not playing well, or Dumoulin's not doing well enough, or this guy obviously can't play. They got to send this guy to the minor leagues. It's hockey. They don't play a playoff game for 6 months. And it's not like the Steelers can take a guy and put him in a position and say, well, we'll try him there for 3 or 4 games and see how he works out. That's a fourth of your season. You can't do it. But with hockey, you can put a guy somewhere, you can play him somewhere for a month, 10 games, 15 games, and get an idea before you make a decision on him. And I think that's what the Penguins should do. They're going to get to the playoffs, and they should get these guys some playing time to make them better, and also to get a better idea of what they have and how good they can be. The other thing about hockey, I love 3-on-3. I've seen it a few times with Penguin games and some other games I've seen during the preseason here. And I like the shootout. And the people that hate 3-on-3 are either the people who just hate hockey and like to make fun of hockey, and they just think it's ridiculous that you would have that kind of a drastic change in overtime from regulation with 3-on-3. But I look at it this way: if from the beginning, if hockey had decided that they, whoever invented the sport decided that they didn't like ties, and that they were going to have a way to settle games at the end. First they were going to play overtime, and then if it wasn't settled, they were going to go to a shootout. If that would have been there from the beginning, it would have been looked at as one of the quirky little things about hockey that make it, a charming sport that people like the handshake after playoff games. And same with 3-on-3. If it had existed from the beginning, it would have been looked at as part of the game, part of the sport, and it would have been considered a positive. So this is me. I'm the old guy who's always accused of hating everything new. I like the 3-on-3. It's going to be fun. I think the fans are going to like it. You're going to see fewer shootouts. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think that depends on how entertaining the 3-on-3s are after they've been doing it for a whole season. But I love it, and the people who don't like it should shut up about it, because I'll take it over a tie. 3-on-3. And how can you not like 3-on-3 when you have guys like Kessel, Crosby, and Malkin on your team who you can watch on a nightly basis? And if you're going to be in a 3-on-3 situation, to watch them doing it, I'm sorry. I like it. So leave me alone about it. Now, I want to get back to football for a second, because RG3 is one of my favorite topics, and he's now been, I guess, relegated to, he's like a scout team safety for the Redskins. He's not even dressing for games. And I've talked about this. I wrote a column about it, and I don't like to say that it's because he's black that he's treated the way he is, but I think that's a part of it. You can say it's because he's an athletic, in quotes, quarterback is why. But I want to give you imagine if I were saying this about RG3. Imagine if I were telling you today that he had the lowest passer rating among any quarterback in the NFL. You'd be saying, well, he's been hurt. It's time to bench him. He's had enough. He's had enough opportunity. If I told you that he had a lower passer rating than guys who have been benched like Brian Hoyer, Josh McCown, Sam Bradford, Blake Bortles, if I told you that his passer rating was about 40 points lower than Brandon Weeden, who got the start for the Cowboys. Well, that's where Oliver. I'm sorry, I always call him Oliver because I'm old enough to remember his dad playing for West Virginia. Andrew Luck has the lowest passer rating in the NFL right now, the worst. He's terrible right now. Andrew Luck stinks. Now, I don't know what the reasons are for it. I don't follow the Colts enough. I'm sure people will tell you that their offensive line is no good. Maybe they've had people injured. I don't know. But I've lived through situations here where quarterbacks have stunk, and when you bring up bad offensive lines or bad wide receivers or injured people, they say those are excuses. So it's very interesting to me that a guy like Andrew Luck is the worst passer rating in the NFL, and there's nobody saying he should be benched. Not that I know of. I sure haven't heard it. And that brings me to another real quick thing here before I get off the sports and we get the news that matters. This is really amazing, but there are like 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL who have who have completed more than 70% of their passes. Ben Roethlisberger was 75.4, I believe it was when he went out. Phillip Rivers is over 75%. Rodgers with Green Bay is over 70%. There are a few other guys who are over 70%. 70% of their passes. Just to give you an idea, Johnny Unitas, for his career. Now, I know there aren't many people left out there old enough to remember Johnny Unitas. Again, I'm old, so I do remember him. Johnny Unitas, still considered by many to be the greatest quarterback ever. You can have discussions about, Joe Montana and Dan Marino and Tom Brady if you want. But Johnny Unitas, for his career, his completion percentage was 54.6 for his career. Now that would get him benched in the NFL today. He had 290 touchdown passes and 253 interceptions. There was one year where Johnny Unitas completed, I'll tell you what, somebody's even better than that. It's Joe Namath. Joe Namath has like 40 more interceptions in his career than touchdown passes. He had years when he was under 50% completion rate about 7 times. And I'm telling you right now, there's not a quarterback playing today who can do anything better than Joe Namath or Johnny Unitas. So that's how the game has changed. 75% of when quarterbacks are completing 75% of their passes, something's wrong. It's too easy. So the game is very, very different now. And so when you're looking at quarterback stats, and people want to tell you that Tom Brady, another one, I think he's completed 78% of his passes. That's ridiculous. And when I watched him against the Steelers, and I had to do a podcast after that game, so I'll throw that in here. I think he completed 28 out of 35 in that game. I could have completed 24 of them. I'm 66 years old. I could have completed 24 of those passes. He drops back, he throws the ball 50 feet. And the guy standing there wide open, he catches it and he runs with it. Maybe in the game he had to make 6 or 7 throws that were a little bit more difficult than that. But I could have made every one of them. I guarantee I could have made them when I was his age. I don't know about now, but I could have made them when I was 35. So I don't know if that's a good thing. People like to look at the NFL today and all the offense and talk about how entertaining it is. I don't know. I just don't find dinking and dunking entertaining. So I guess we're going to start finding out whether Mike Vick can survive and flourish and thrive in a dink and dunk offense, because that's what he's going to be running Thursday night against the Ravens. We'll see what happens. And then we're going to talk about news that matters.
We now go to John Steigerwald for news that matters. John?
Yes, news that matters. I've been off for a few weeks here, and apparently the election is still going on, or the primary is still going on, or the primary campaign. Hasn't been any actual voting being done. You never know that by watching the news. It's almost like when you look at the polls, it's like there's an election every day, and there are winners and losers. But I guess Donald Trump is still the man, and there are things about him that I like. Number one, the fact that he has no experience in government. I like that a lot. That might be a good thing. I'm one of those people who think we could use somebody who's never spent 5 minutes in office of any kind, in any government, anywhere. But I can see, I can kind of see him getting the nomination, but I wouldn't bet on it. If you go back and look at history, there were Rick Perry was ahead at this time in 2012 by a big number, and he obviously disintegrated. So you go back and look in past years, people who disappeared were in the lead at this point early on, months before the Iowa caucuses and everything. So I still think he's got plenty of chances to screw up. And I think, from what I see, Marco Rubio looks like the guy to me who's most likely to benefit if and when Donald Trump somehow implodes, because he's really sharp, Marco Rubio. I don't agree with everything about him. I don't know if he's conservative enough for me, but just watch the guy. He doesn't need a teleprompter. He's very well spoken on everything. He's whether it's a debate situation, he's had 2 really good debates, or whether he's in a one-on-one interview, he's really, really good. He reminds me of JFK. Again, I'm old, and I remember JFK, who was his age. Now, I was only a kid. I was 15 years old when he was shot, so I was like 12 during the election. But I remember the style that John F. Kennedy had, and he was different from everybody else. He was just so good off the cuff, and Rubio reminds me of him, and he is the same age. Now, I don't know how Mrs. Clinton is still running. I don't know. She's got like 38% favorability. this just every day there's something that she lied about. Oh, well, when I said that before, what I really meant was the emails, well, at the time, that's actually, I'm sorry. Geez, I apologize for the confusion. Every day it's something. And most of the bad stuff is about the email news, or the email stuff, but what's worse than the email stuff for her are the polls. Every time a poll comes out, it's worse. And Joe Biden has to be looking at that and going, I think I can win this thing. Now, whether he actually even wants to be president is another issue. And Bernie Sanders isn't going anywhere. Once people when the entire country finds out who he is, and then finds out that he should be running for president of Cuba, he's not going anywhere. So I think it's Joe Biden. I just can't imagine Hillary Clinton getting through this. I can't imagine anybody that unpleasant, unappealing being elected president of the United States. Now, if it's her against Donald Trump, think about that for a minute. Now, Donald Trump, as I said, the one thing I like about him is that he has no experience and he's not a politician. But if out of 350 million people, 350 million, well, not all of them are eligible to be, you have to be 35 years old, so it's less than that, but you know what I mean. Out of all hundreds of millions of people, if whatever process we go through, we end up with Donald Trump running against Mrs. Clinton for president. I mean, how pathetic would that be? Two jagoffs like that are the best thing in a country of 300. I mean, seriously. You think about Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson, and, even FDR, and, I don't know, Ronald Reagan. You come up with, and this is what we're now down to Donald Trump and that jagoff Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's unbearable. Now, speaking of Hillary, nobody can get her to do an interview. She's finally started doing them. She did, I think, a CBS Face the Nation, which nobody watches, and she showed up on Meet the Press, and what's his name, Todd, he just threw her softballs all day. But she did it. She sat down and did an interview with Lena Dunham. Now, if you don't know who Lena Dunham is, she's a woman who has a series. I don't know if I want to call it a hit series on HBO because I don't know how many people watch it, but it's on there. Now, she she's a little chubby, okay, and she gets naked a lot, and likes to get naked on her show. And I saw it once, and I never watched the show again because she was naked. I don't want to see her naked ever again, so I'm never watching the show. Now, to me, it would be kind of like The Sopranos. If I don't know how much I would like The Sopranos if every episode I had to see Tony Soprano naked. James Gandolfini. If he would have said, you know what, I really like this series. I want to have at least one nude scene a week, and I had to watch James Gandolfini walking around naked, I'm not watching the show. So that's what I don't know what the show is about. It's called Girls. Lena Dunham is a little pleasantly plump woman who likes to get naked on camera, and I don't know why. And I don't know why anybody would watch the show for 30 seconds. But anyway, Mrs. Clinton did an interview with Lena Dunham. I don't know why she gets to do the interview. She's an actress and a producer of a comedy/drama. I don't know what kind of show it's supposed to be. How that qualifies her to sit down with Hillary Clinton, I don't know, but she did, and that's where we are. Hillary Clinton gets away with that. And she could be, I can't believe it, but she could actually be President of the United States someday. And Lena Dunham is doing the interview. So there you go. Now, just one other thing, speaking of Mitt Romney. Do you remember when, during the debates in 2012, when Mitt Romney said that Russia was our biggest geopolitical foe, our biggest geopolitical problem, and Barack Obama laughed at him. Literally said, hey, Governor, the 80s called. They want their foreign policy back. Because he made fun of the fact that Romney said that Russia might be a problem. Well, as I'm sitting here on Wednesday morning, the Russians are dropping bombs over in Syria. And I have no idea who they're dropping bombs on. I don't care. But they're over there, and they are going to be calling the shots in the Middle East. They are. They're just going to be. And this is Barack Obama, who was going to fix all that stuff in the Middle East, and everybody was going to love us. The Russians weren't going to be a problem. ISIS, where they were JVs, and now you have Russian bombers flying over there, dropping bombs. There's some discussion about whether or not they're dropping him on ISIS or who they're dropping him on. But at this point, who cares? But the point is, they are involved, and President Obama said, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not a problem. Russians, don't worry about it. Now, we have another segment here which we call Doomed coming up in just a second. But a lot of what we come up with for Doomed comes from stuff that happens on college campuses. And the reason I say that we're doomed is that because some of the stuff there's more stupidity per square inch on a college campus than probably anywhere on the planet Earth, and political correctness is killing us. Well, there's a great piece that I found on National Review, and I Googled it. I'm sorry, I put it up on Twitter, and I tweeted it, and the headline of it is "Victim Culture is Killing American Manhood," and this guy's David French, and I had to tell you about this because if you don't have time to listen to me here, go on Twitter and find it at SteigerWorld and read it. But this guy says he grew up in rural Kentucky, where the process of becoming a man meant gaining toughness, shedding weakness, and learning how to take care of yourself and others. And it was simply understood not just by fathers and sons, but also by mothers and teachers. And in one grade school incident, I got into a playground fight with another boy and knocked him to the ground. As the teacher rushed up to separate us, she demanded to know what happened. What happened? He said, "I hit like a girl," I told her. "Is this true?" she asked my friend. Rubbing his face, he nodded. "Well, then you deserved it," she said, and that was that. Now, he goes on to say that it used to be that you weren't a victim. It was about honor and dignity, and the epitome of that was the duel. If someone did something to you, they knew that they were going to have to pay a price because you were going to stand up to them. And so there was less victimhood. And so the point being that it's gone from, you no longer, especially boys and men, are no longer expected to stand up and challenge somebody for a grievance. Now you're supposed to find a third party and complain and say that you've been aggrieved, and it's gotten to the point where they have microaggression on college campuses. They're talking about that all the time. And this guy in this piece talks about this a lot. But he goes on to say that at the time, my schoolyard tussle wasn't that significant. Just another day in the life of a boy growing up in the South. My response to my friend wasn't right, but it wasn't a big deal, and no one treated it as such, which is true. I know that when I was in school, if the kids got in a fight, we had a pastor at St. Bernard's. I wrote about it in my book, Just Watch the Game, Father Lonergan. He would sit there and watch the kids playing on the playground at St. Bernard's, a Catholic grade school in Mount Lebanon, and somebody would get in a fight, and I was talking in the course of doing my story on the football team there. The coach told me, he said I'd be sitting there with Father Lonergan, and they said there'd be a fight, and pretty soon there'd be a bunch of kids gathered around watching two kids fight. He'd nudge me and he'd say, "Get the 16s." And the 16s were 16-ounce gloves. And they put 16-ounce gloves on the two kids and let them fight it out. If they did that now, it would be the lead story on MSNBC about child abuse. So he says, at the time, my schoolyard tussle wasn't that significant. Just another day in the life of a boy growing up in the South. My response to my friend wasn't right, but it wasn't a big deal, and no one treated it as such. Today, it would change my life, and this is true. This is what's so sick about it. Today, it would change my life in all the wrong ways. At most present-day American schools, both of us would be punished for violating zero-tolerance policies on violence, and the reference to, quote, hitting like a girl would cause an uproar over gender discrimination, mandatory counseling, and possible expulsion. This is why I love this piece that this guy wrote. And he said, the only proper response to this sorry state of affairs, he's talking now about the fact that people go to a third party now and aggrieve They need to aggrieve that I'm a victim. Please, you have to take care of this person who did something to me because I can't handle it myself. He says the only proper response to this sorry state of affairs is to confront the crybabies until they man up or shut up. No more yielding to the utter nonsense of social media shame campaigns, hand-wringing deans of students, or idiotic, politically correct corporate press releases. There are real victims out there, and real victims need actual men to stand in their defense. This is what I'm talking about. And of course, it doesn't matter because we're doomed anyway.
Why we may be doomed.
Yes, we are doomed, and this is actually not from a college campus. I do have one of those coming up, but this is coming an actual Syracuse University football game. The Kiss Cam. You've seen the Kiss Cam at Penguins games, I'm sure. I don't know if they do them at Pirate games. They do it at Penguin games. They focus on a man and a woman, and you're supposed to kiss, and they put a little heart. It's a stupid little thing, but people laugh, and it's perfectly harmless, of course. Or is it? Because Syracuse has suspended the Kiss Cam. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but because it may promote sexual assault. You aware of this? Yep, Syracuse University has ditched its use of Kiss Cam at football games after a lone letter. One guy wrote a letter, and that's the end of the Kiss Cam. Claiming it was inappropriate when colleges are trying to stamp out sexual assault. It all started last week when Syracuse student Steve Port, so it is a student. God, he's a man too. So he sent a letter to the Post-Standard complaining about what he saw on the Kiss Cam during a game 2 weeks ago against Wake Forest. Now, I want you to, what's the key word here in this sentence? This is a quote from the guy who sent the letter. During the Kiss Cam break at the Syracuse game last weekend, I saw some horrifying behavior that was met with cheers and applause from the crowd. It made me sick to my stomach, wrote Port. Horrifying. You're a man. You're at a football game. Instead of just enjoying the game, this thing pops up on the screen. Instead of paying, basically what a man should really do probably is not pay any attention to it, and take another drink of your beer or do something. But if first of all, you're even watching it, but you're horrified by it. You know what the word horrify means? That means like you're really scared. If you're horrified, you're like traumatized. It's really scary to you. During the Kiss Cam break, the Syracuse game last weekend, I saw some horrifying behavior. There's the word again. This is the same moron, Steve Port. During the Kiss Cam break, the Syracuse game last weekend, I saw some horrifying behavior that was met with cheers and applause from the crowd. It made me sick to my stomach. The cameraman scanned into the student section where a young man and a young woman were shown. Clearly not a couple. The male student pleaded his case for a kiss on the big screen while the female adamantly shook her head no. So what does this guy do? He grabs her head and shoves his tongue down her throat. The crowd cheers. Now, how he knows that he shoved her tongue down her throat, I don't know. This wasn't just fun and games, Port said, but could actually be a felony. This is where we are in America. The instances I witnessed at the game encourage and condone sexual assault and a sense of male entitlement at best, and they are an actual instance of assault at worst. Port concluded with a call for university officials to review what happened and consider the ramifications of the Kiss Cam. So, Syracuse has taken Port to heart. During last Saturday's game against Central Michigan, the Kiss Cam was nowhere to be seen. The school says it has suspended the camera while it assesses Port's complaint, but it's possible that the camera is gone for good. So there you go. No Kiss Cam anymore. Everybody now going to the Syracuse University football games is safe from the Kiss Cam. Now, this is a man who was horrified by what he saw on the Kiss Cam. So, and what the reason we're doomed is that the people at the university didn't read his letter and say, okay, yeah, and laugh at it, roll it up and throw it in the wastebasket and move on to the next item. Instead, they took it seriously and they killed the Kiss Cam because of this one guy. I don't care if I ever see a Kiss Cam again, don't get me wrong. It's not one of my favorite things, but the point is this guy's reaction to it. It's not that big a deal. And then there's this. Now, I going all the way back to when I was in college, they used to rank colleges for the best party school. And everybody used to think, I think everybody thought that their school was in the top 10. Nobody ever had an official, but there is actually an official ranking of like the top party schools. And West Virginia won, I know, a couple of times, best party school. But, and you might, if that would happen, as a really serious student, especially in today's politically correct world, a serious student might say, that they were offended by it and they didn't like their school being portrayed that way. But what if your school were ranked number 1 as the best college in the United States by Forbes magazine? Wouldn't you think that would be? The students would say, "Hey, that's pretty cool. I go to school here, and I must be pretty cool. I go to the top college in the United States." Well, that's not how it worked out at Pomona College. A cohort of angry students at the small private liberal arts college in Claremont, California, demanded administrators remove from their website a news release touting the recognition, decrying the promotion as pushing, quote, stress, anxiety, and unhealthy competition among students. In late July, Forbes ranked Pomona as the number 1 university in the nation. Its list is based on, quote, student consumer value over marketing prestige. Soon after its release, campus officials touted the ranking on their website homepage, but some students felt that the award should have been ignored completely. A petition circulated by students cited a pledge Pomona administrators made in 2007 to never promote rankings to counteract admissions frenzy. These are words that pop up now. What the hell is admissions frenzy? Who comes up with this stuff? The petition went on to state, pressure to attend highly ranked schools can result in stress, anxiety, and unhealthy competition among students at a time when we are most in need of support, trust, and objective information. What you're mostly in need of is a punch in the face. That's what you're mostly in need of. You know what I mean? Will you please come on? Stress used to be, hey, I got a final coming up in physics and I didn't study for it. I'm really stressed out. That would be stress, and that would be something if you're in college. You would, boy, I wish I would have studied for that test. Or I was assigned a paper to do, and I don't have any idea what I'm supposed to do. I don't understand the whole concept. It's killing me. It's killing me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm stressed out. Now you're supposed to be stressed out because you're supposed to be experiencing stress and anxiety because a magazine has ranked your college as the best college in the country. You can't just look at it and go either, oh, that's nice, or, oh, I don't care about that. I think those rankings are stupid. You have to allow yourself to be stressed out about it and actually make a big deal about it. Oh, man, I'm glad I grew up when I did. So, that's it. Pomona College, they're number 1 in the world, best college in the country, but people are pissed off. Not number 1. That's bad enough, but there were only 200 people signed the petition. There's like 1,400 kids in the school, so 200 signed the petition, so they took it off the website. No, that's it. Well, we can't have that up there. We don't want to stress out the kiddies. So, we're doomed. We'll do STAG at the movies next.
In a SteigerWorld, it's STAG at the movies.
Yes, it is. And I did see a couple for you. One, I think you should definitely go see. One, you could go see if your wife makes you. I'll start with the first one, Black Mass. I guess it's still out there. Johnny Depp. He plays Whitey Bulger, a member of I guess they call it the Irish Mafia, the Irish gangsters up in Boston. They're a nasty group of people. And he was a big-time thug. Johnny Depp, who has not had a lot of great roles lately, or he's had some roles that have challenged him and everything, and he's done well in them, at least as far as the portrayal, but the movies haven't done well for a while. He's had a lot of stinkers at the box office, and I don't know how this one's doing, but I think he should be nominated for an Academy Award for this. He doesn't look much like Johnny Depp, and I like it when an actor doesn't play himself the way Clooney does. People like that. I like guys like Michael Keaton who take roles that are just widely different from role to role. And so Johnny Depp, I mean, he becomes this Whitey Bulger character, and it's a gruesome, dark, grisly, gory, nasty movie, but it's really good. So go check it out. Black Mass. Now the other one I went to see had a guy in it who's been known to play a gangster or two, Robert De Niro. It's called The Intern. My wife dragged me to it. It's a chick flick. It's a barely bearable chick flick. Now, when I rank chick flicks, if you're a new listener here, I tell you that there are different kinds of chick flicks. There's the kind that you go to and you can make it through it, and you don't even tell your wife that you're annoyed about having to go see it. You just go, wife or girlfriend. You just go, and when she says you like it, you say, yeah, that was pretty good. And even if you didn't, you didn't like it that much. Then there are other chick flicks that you don't want to go. You let your wife know you don't want to go. She says you got to go or she's going to be mad. And then you have to make the decision. Is this movie bad enough that I should risk having a protracted fight with my wife, maybe not speak for a while, or have one of those nights where we're not talking to each other because I didn't agree to go to a movie and she's mad. There's those. And then there are the kinds, the chick flick that you shouldn't go to even if your wife threatens to divorce you. Okay? Well, The Intern is not one of those. The Intern is one that you should... It's barely bearable. It's almost worth putting up a fight and not going, but not quite. Robert De Niro plays a 71-year-old guy who retired. He decides to take a senior internship at a company run by Anne Hathaway. She's really good in it. Robert De Niro's good in it. He plays like a nerdy old guy. A pretty good departure from him. He doesn't beat anybody up in the movie or shoot anybody. And he never drops any F-bombs. But it's a chick flick, without a doubt, but bearable. And if you want to win some points with your wife, go out to dinner, go to this movie. You won't want to kill yourself. And you might score some points. So 2 movies. The Black Mass, very good, very dark, very gruesome, and interesting because my wife wanted to go see that too. So she'll go see a movie like that, which a lot of women wouldn't like. She liked it, and it's a really dark, gruesome story. And so she's able to go to that. I gotta go to see The Intern. I survived. You'll survive it too. See you next week.